util/deontology debate on top, then line by line.
Can you say that again? I'm
Just
sorry.
poverty and racism.
Okay.
Everybody ready?
Util's on top.
Util is going to be on top of racism.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Everyone ready? Two ways you can see poverty. All the poverty cards you can see the Reinhardt evidence indicates overwhelming milking can overcome systematic energy barriers in the system with 100% risk taken out of solvency. Even if they give reasons for the why this is true. One, it requires proof of system-wide purposeful race discrimination to support systematic remedies. Two, it means that this will prevent equal protection acts from any inequalities in school funding. Three, it's going to allow declarations of unitary status in the face of persistent racial identification and chronic funding inequality, which are reasons why the affirmative is never going to be able to solve the systematic harms of racism. Even if you get 100% risk of the racism advantage, they don't extend any impact to it, they don't extend any links from in the 2AC. It doesn't matter because they won't be able to solve. Further, you can extend the status quo is already going to solve for racism. This function to mean that we're not complicit with racism. The No Child Left Behind Act is going to at least try to solve some type of poverty. It's a better alternative than the 1AC scenario. Further, you can extend standardized tests for meaningless and evaluate what students learn, and there's no guideline for how you're going to lead to education, which means they don't access the poverty advantage now. On to racism. 2AC only extends one is Callahan evidence talking about survival, dehumanization, but that's not unique. We focused on survival for years now as a federal government. You can take into account McCarthyism from the scares of the 1950s and 1960s when we would try to eradicate communism at all costs because we would feel that communism was going to lead to the extinction of the human population. We've used this impact calculus for years and haven't seen the dehumanization. If we have, we shouldn't be able to evaluate ontology, evaluate how life has meaning, which means we can't evaluate case harms. Now it's in the Wilson 98 evidence indicates moral absolute fuels, wars, genocides, all types of atrocity, a world in which a world in which we're using moral absolutism in the political sphere means we're going to always think that the more moral act is better, i.e. non-intervention in Rwanda would be a moral act because we don't extend imperialism. That would be justified genocide. Now you can the Keel evidence talks about how states are not moral agents. Even if you agree with the ontology, it doesn't matter. States don't have the ability to extend moral ideas because it's going to be a double bind for them. Whose morality do you choose to go by? If you go by a Christian ethic or you go by an atheist ethic, they're completely different. Further, you can extend deontology. This is going to perpetuate misery. Answer Smart 73 evidence is offense. Reasons why deontology is a bad idea. All of Marx are answered above. Now you can extend extinction destroys the framework of morality to exist as its gateway to their framework of world in which we access extinction. You don't have a mode or a way of transportation of deciding this correct ethic. That's a rock evidence. And further, the Cade evidence is pretty good on no matter how slight the risk of nuclear war, you must avoid it because it is the ultimate destruction of human life. And it also is gateway to morality because you don't exist. Further, the impact of the Cade evidences or Wesley evidence indicates the right to life precedes all other human rights. If you give it 100% risk of all of their rights claims, it doesn't matter because if you're not living, you can't decide that. They didn't extend Geworth. Don't let them bring this up in the 2AR. Alright, drop down to the invisibility turn. He says it's not true, it didn't happen before Milliken. That's his only defensive argument, and he risks at this point that this offense is true. It's reasons why you're going to reject the affirmative because it's an immediate 100% case term because it means that all children everywhere are going to be viewed as invisible, or all minorities will be viewed as invisible by the white supremacy. Now, one is case harms exist. Case harms exist, which proves that invisibility equals racism, which is the reason for the Milliken decision, which proves that it happened before the Milliken decision. And all of their case harms talking about how white supremacy make children view themselves as not being children at all. That's just the ultimate racism. You can see in the Hall, the two Hall pieces of evidence indicate the school desegregation efforts render black children invisible because the civil rights lawyers ensure that their educational needs are going to be lost for equality. That civil rights lawyers are going to just be subsidized by pro bono type cases, and they're not going to push for educational needs. Further, the second Hall evidence indicates that this invisibility replicates just the biggest instance of racism. Further, that's fine. Turns case, cross-apply from cross-examination, they said racism is the biggest impact, whoever leads to it more, you should vote for it, they lead to racism more. Counter-reaction. Drop down, extend the Supreme Court ruling on desegregation promotes congressional counter-reaction, ensuring absolutely no solvency. He said, is it true that usually doesn't happen this way? He's like, evidence is overestimated, but one, they have no counter-evidence. Two, this is just a defensive analytic, and three, he's got no credibility. Our argument is from Miller, and who's written a book called The Court versus Congress, and this is what this man does for a living, and they indicate that the Supreme Court's promotion of desegregation is going to cause Congress to react. And look, Congress always reacts to Supreme Court decision. That's the basis of our Duke Energy disaster. They talk about the following, like the decision in Green, like Hugh establishes new guidelines for desegregation to literally co-opt this type of Supreme Court movement and use this movement as a way and a mode to exert congressional reaction or congressional power and make that a precedent. That's bad because Congress doesn't support these types of plans, which means that the case is going to lead to more congressional counterreactions for desegregation. Even if the plan happens post-plan, it doesn't matter because inevitably the Congress will just co-opt the plan. Further, you can extend our, drop down the teacher's training, extend to Princeton evidence that indicates that the school desegregation decreased the number of African-American students. Talk about, like, in the first 11 years after desegregation, over 30,000 African-American teachers were dismissed. Many of them weren't dismissed, were relocated to desegregated schools, not to public schools, and the impact of that is our fruitful evidence would indicate that when these African-American teachers are dismissed, that the black children who use them as role models and as cultural influence in the school as the only means of checking white supremacy in the school, that they lose educational value.
It's employment racism too, because by dismissing them, they're...
Yeah, this is the ultimate employment racism because they're dismissing them and relocating them based off their race, which means that the 1AC leads to more racism. And his only argument to this is, I don't think he had an argument to that.
The way they break down. Poverty kills education.
Yeah, he says poverty kills education. That's answering on the poverty flow. Is how you don't access poverty, which means you don't access education. Now, he says it's biting to our critique, but Crosby can't articulate a reason why, and that's